Hello, this is David Lorimer here with another post on this book, The Threshold by Kingsley Dennis. And this time I want to talk about apocalypse and the battle for the human soul, which my friend Greg Braden is also talking about in some of his posts and YouTubes, which you can look up. And I'll start with a quote from Erich Fromm, who's a psychologist whose books I have in my library. He says, "The shadows are lengthening." This was in the 1950s. The voices of insanity are becoming louder. We're in reach of achieving a state of humanity which corresponds to the vision of our great teachers. Yet we are in danger of the destruction of all civilization, of robotization. And Kingsley calls this robo-sapiens, not homo sapiens, but robo-sapiens. And that's the danger that we're in at the moment. But he says this also, the new phase of human history, if it comes to pass, and that's the point, will be a new beginning, not an end. So we're looking at an end, but we're also looking at a new beginning here. And the danger that we are facing is to succumb to the forces of what Kingsley calls techno-materialism, with this transhumanist vision of the merging of the human and the machine. And I think what we need to do is to realize that we're in a cyclic process of death and rebirth, of decay and regeneration, which Steiner talked about and which is studied by great thinkers such as Oswald Spengler, The Decline of the West, and Arnold Toynbee, A Study of History in 12 volumes, which I also have in my library. But Toynbee also said that the only way forward is effectively a spiritual revolution. And I think he's talking to our time exactly. So I think we are living in this period of decay, disintegration, decline, and we see this morally. And the apocalypse aspect also means disclosure. And I don't need to tell you any more about the disclosures that are going on. And gradually the public is beginning to become more aware of what goes on behind the scenes, which is essential really for a proper understanding of world affairs, and to understand what's happening beyond the news propaganda. Now, I think what we have before us is two broad possibilities of evolution. One is this idea of transhumanism, of merging the human and the machine, the fourth industrial revolution, where we will become very, very clever, but unfortunately none the wiser. And as E.F. Schumacher famously said, humanity is now too clever to survive without wisdom. And I think we're at that point. And the other is really a more transcendent spiritualization, which I think goes with evolution, while transhumanism is arguably anti-being, anti-life, anti-evolutionary, counter-evolutionary, and entropic. In other words, it's running down. And because it cuts itself off from spiritual forces, Steiner argues that actually it cannot last, and it has to elicit a spiritual response. And this is really the responsibility of the people who are on the spiritual path, is to help co-create this kind of new vision and activate our wills. We can't just sit around and hope that everything is going to work out. And this means spiritualization of intelligence, a higher frequency, a different system, a new consciousness, basically, because if we continue with the old consciousness, then we are faced with annihilation and destruction rather than initiation. So I believe we're going through a profound cultural initiation, and that it's our task as people aware of these cyclic processes to contribute co-creatively and think about what we can do in our circle of influence to bring in a new culture of love, wisdom, and truth. Thank you for listening.